I'm Ajinkya from FirstSportz, and today we have a very special guest with us. It's Biaggio Ali Walsh. He's an up-and-coming MMA fighter and the grandson of the great Muhammad Ali. How are you doing, Biaggio?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I am very well today. So you have an upcoming match against Galarza Lopez on November 24th. So how's the training been for the fight?
Everything's been good. Training is usually the same, um, Monday through Saturday, twice a day, every day. Just hard work and yeah, just getting excited for next weekend.
Of course. And do you train one aspect of the game more than the other? Because as a striker, you might want to double down on striking, but in MMA, you also need a strong ground game.
Yeah. So Extreme Couture is, I think they're very well known for their grappling, and I find myself uh, grappling and wrestling like for MMA more than I just strike because Mondays and Fridays is we grapple like 9 5-minute rounds in the morning. Wednesday we wrestle, and then Tuesdays and Thursdays is MMA sparring. So I'm technically grappling every single day, and I'm doing that more than just focusing on striking. If I'm just doing striking, it's either mitts with my striking coach or heavy bag. But yeah, I wrestle and I grapple a lot so that, if I go against a wrestler or a grappler, they almost have no choice but to stand with me. Like that's the goal. I think mixed martial arts is all about forcing your opponent to do what you want to do.
Right.
So uh yeah, I'd say I grapple and I wrestle a lot more than just striking, but I'm here to knock you out. I'm not here to submit you.
Of course. And as a grappler, I mean, you would rather try to work more on your defense. So you would try to prevent the other person from taking you down than rather than you taking him down, right?
Yeah. And another thing too is like I have a theory, if you're known as a striker and you're not known for your wrestling at all or whatever, I mean, it's inevitable in MMA to be known for whatever the fight, wherever the fight takes you. Um, but you know, if I were to shoot as a striker, I feel like there's a higher percentage of landing that because it's very unexpected and it's not
Mhm.
something that you would kind of expect from a striker. But yeah, that's not something I really want to do. I like to just stand and bang.
This makes sense. And Extreme Couture, you talked about it. So there's a lot of great people out there who train over there. Like I interviewed Sadi Busai last week, and he was talking about
Mhm.
Extreme Couture. He was talking about training with Sean Strickland, who became the middleweight champion of the UFC. And he
Mhm.
was talking about the fact that everywhere around him there was this feeling that he will eventually become a champion, even though he was facing someone like Israel Adesanya. Is that something
Mhm.
you also felt in the gym?
Oh yeah, I mean, first, Extreme Couture is just full of so many killers. Saudi is a champ. He has a belt. Sean's the middleweight champion of the world. Um, he's very, you know, he's obviously has this like not it's not really a character. It's like it's him, but
His personality, yeah.
it yeah, like he's a very big personality, and you know, I think uh he behind closed doors he's such a good teammate and he knows how to just push people to their best potential. And I think when you if you want to soar, you hang with eagles, and that's what you kind of get at Extreme Couture. So Saudi working in a room with all those great middleweights, welterweights, light heavy, even heavy.
Mhm.
um you're almost bound to feed off of that energy, and now you got two champs in the same room, which is not really a coincidence.
Mhm. Makes sense. And he trains like he fights. So is that something you also try to do in the gym?
Obviously there's some days where you want to train for like for this week example, and even last week, I'm training a lot harder, like as if I'm fighting. I train at fight pace when I'm sparring. But I think GSP is really smart when he says like he said in the podcast, I think he was talking about how playing is how you really get a lot better. You just kind of
Mhm.
playing, but like
Yeah.
taking care of your teammate and obviously having respect for your teammate. You're not trying to kill each other,
Of
when you're sparring. But that's how you get like reactive times in your eyes and all that stuff right. I like to look at us as computers. When you're training and you're doing all of this stuff, you're just putting data into your computer so that when it comes fight time, it happens naturally. Bruce Lee said, I don't hit, it hits all by itself when
Right.
he in Enter the Dragon. And he's absolutely right. That's what it's like with fighting. So yeah, I think when I get closer to the fight, I fight, or I train like I fight.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah,
Right.
I go a lot harder in other
That
terms.
makes sense.
Yeah,
And you have decent momentum going into this fight. Does that give you more confidence going in?
it does. A lot of my confidence comes from my faith. Just believing in what's really important, why I'm fighting. I think that alone gives me the most confidence in the world.
Right. You're talking about your faith, your grandfather, Muhammad Ali, was also devout Muslim. So are you very religious too?
Yeah, just this year, I started becoming a lot more closer to my faith because, I was born into a Muslim family. Both my parents were Muslim. I always believed, in one God, that God was one. But I didn't know too much about my religion.
Right.
And, so there's been times in my life where I didn't know. I just believed in one God. I didn't know. But this year, like this March, was when it's funny. I was on a TikTok live, and I just heard uh like a Muslim brother just talking about his religion to other people,
Mhm.
and I was agreeing with what everything he said. I'm like, okay, he's Muslim. I'm Muslim too. You know what? How have I not read I haven't read the Quran since. So I started reading the Quran, and man, it just hit me like a ton of bricks just about what my grandfather stood for, what he believed,
Yeah.
and just the truth, to be completely honest. Yeah, I think that my faith alone just helps me. It gives me the most confidence more than anything, really. More
Yeah.
than like leverage and
Mm.
bets, odds, all of
Yeah.
that.
Okay, that makes sense. And this is something that you started doing recently, like just a year ago, you really started getting into your faith and, trying to connect more with it. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And, considering who your grandfather was, obviously, does it put more pressure on you to perform when you're in the ring or in the octagon?
Oh, absolutely. I've had pressure my whole life just being related to Muhammad Ali. As a little kid, kids would want to see if I could fight, so like they try to challenge me to fights.
Yeah.
Um, it happened many times, and yeah. Um, what was the question again? I just I
Okay,
just
fine.
like went off the rails for a second. What
Yeah,
was the
it's like
question again?
the pressure. How does it put more pressure on you?
Oh yeah,
Obviously, your grandfather
yeah,
was.
yeah. I had that my whole life. Even in high school with football.
Mm.
With Max Preps, as soon as it came out, who I was related to, now there was all this pressure. But I like to look at pressure as it's just an illusion, really. A
Right.
lot of people, us as humans, we put a lot of unnecessary pressure on ourselves, and I think that at the end of the day, it's just to steer you away. That's how I like to look at it. But yeah, I felt that my entire life.
Yeah, and you also started lead as a fighter. Do you think at times it gives other people an advantage over you?
You said what? I'm sorry.
You started late as a fighter. So at times, does it give more advantage to the person you're fighting at times? Do you feel that way?
Yeah, on paper you would say so, but Alexander Volkanovski started late,
Late, yeah.
and look at where he's at. Cyril Gahn just as well.
Mhm.
Randy Couture even. They
Right.
started very late and they had a lot of success. I think that the will is what really matters at the end of the day. The will of the individual, the want, the grind, the hunger, and the individual is what really takes them so far. Not starting so young or starting so late. You know, uh, Vice versa. A lot of young fighters who start at a very very young age, they get burnt out by the
Mhm.
time they hit 21 or 22, something like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, it could go both ways, but I think that the will, the sacrifice, the discipline, I think it all depends on the individual.
Mhm. And you know, Um, you talked about the difference between your first and second fight as night and day. So what was so different about the two fights?
The first two?
Yeah, the first two.
Oh yeah. The first one I wasn't breathing at all. It was one of those,
Yeah.
just kind of swinging for the fences. So, and that's exactly what I did. If you're, I have 3 3-minute rounds. If you're not breathing in a fight for 3 minutes straight, you're gonna get gassed out. And
Right.
that's exactly what happened. I caught the guy many times, but I ended up gassing out, and he ended up taking my back and getting my neck. So the second fight, my main focus was to just be calm, because that's the biggest thing too. Like when you're in there, you got to be calm. It's got to be your home. Like if you train at a gym that has a cage and you're always training in a cage and you're getting that cage awareness and you're in that cage, it's no different than at the gym training when you're fighting. The fight is the fun part, the weight cutting, the training, that's supposed to be the hard part. The fun part's supposed to be the fight. And yeah, that I think is it. Yeah, I think that's focusing on that is what's really important.
Yeah, being calm. And also something you said was that, the biggest lesson that your grandfather taught you was of humility. So how has that affected you as a fighter and as a person?
I think yeah, that's I think the best piece of advice he's ever given me. A lot of people, they change when success hits them, and they don't stay humble. They forget their upbringing, they forget their background, where they come from, what they've been taught is good. Um, yeah, I think being humble is, God willing, I get success in order to help people, but God willing, I stay humble when this happens as well. You see a lot of celebrities, uh, they they're kind of mean, just in general, they're just kind of mean people. But my grandfather, he never said no to an autograph. He was hugging kids. People would hand them their kid, they'd take pictures. He was such a loving person. That's why he was the people's champ. And I think that he like had the world by its hand at some point. He was one of the most famous people to live,
Yeah.
and he was still such a humble, amazing person. So when you have that kind of power and you're still humble, it's like, to me, that's what's really cool, and that's what really makes person the people's champ. So yeah, I think to me that's the best advice he's ever given me.
Yeah, and what are some of the most core memories you have with your grandfather?
Several. There's so many, but I have a favorite, and
Okay.
it was when we saw Peter Jackson's King Kong when it came out in, I think, 2005. Um, it was funny. We went to the movie theater. This was when he was living in Scottsdale, and everybody in like the snack line left because they wanted to take a picture with Muhammad Ali. So I ran up to the snacks and I was trying to get snacks all I could. So we get into the movie, and I don't know if you've seen it or not, but like you don't see King Kong until like an
Yeah.
hour into the movie, like an hour and a half into the movie. So the whole first hour and a half of the movie, he's like nudging us, like, "Where the monkey at? Where the monkey at? Where the monkey at?" So I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, I haven't. This is my first time too, and I was a little kid. So,
Yeah.
but that's one of my favorite memories. There's countless amounts. For Thanksgiving, we'd always go over there for Thanksgiving. Um, his house in Michigan, like we'd go on the golf cart because he had a lot of land in Michigan. So we'd go on the golf cart and just drive around. And at the time, he had Dobermans, and they would just chase us on the golf cart. And yeah, there's a ton of memories.
That is amazing because he was known for his sense of humor. So it makes sense that he would, pull something like that, at the movie
Oh
theater.
yeah, he was hilarious.
And, was there ever a healthy rivalry between you and your brother growing up because of, your grandfather encouraged that rivalry between you two, at least a healthy sportsman rivalry?
What was that? I'm sorry, the last part.
Was there ever a rivalry between you and your brother growing up? Did he encourage you to have this rivalry? Because obviously he would egg you on, both of you. Come on, who's
Yeah, yeah. It's just me and my brother. So brothers, they always fight growing up. It's like a natural thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, Nico was really good at like getting under my skin and egging me on. And I used to just whoop his ass before it. But yeah, that's like the normal thing when you have brothers, you know, is growing up and just kind of barking at each other. And yeah, it's ironic that we're fighting now. Like I don't believe in coincidences. I believe everything is already written to have happened.
Right.
And this was just written for me and my brother to fight.
Yeah, exactly, because combat sports wasn't your first choice. You started football, right? But eventually it did lead you over here because after I think your football career sort of slowed down, you started training people, strength and conditioning. And
Hmm.
through that, you found extreme couture and eventually became, an MMA fighter. So obviously, I get what you're saying. Ki it was meant to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, everybody's journey is different. Like I said, you know, the like I mentioned, the fighters that started late, you know, their journey was completely different than the people that have started since they were little kids. Um, yeah, you know, I was trying to find out what to do with my life. You know, I was working at Adidas. I was going out every weekend or every other day. I was doing a lot of stupid stuff, making dumb decisions. I didn't know what to do. Like I wanted to try real estate. I didn't really like that. I was still in school too,
Mhm.
and I was just trying to figure it out. This is completely normal to somebody who was either playing a sport and just suddenly stopped, or was doing this and then stopped, and they're trying to figure out what else to do. You know, it's completely normal, and that's what happened to me. And I think depression just led me to extreme couture, and I just feel better emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. It's really changed my life. It brought me closer to God. You know, it's completely changed my life. And I think at the end of my career, I want to like help inspire people like that who's going through that. You know,
Mhm.
even someone who's not, but anyone who's going through some kind of adversity. You know, because everybody goes through adversity every day. So, yeah, that's my goal with this whole career path and everything that's happening.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. And eventually, when you did get into MMA, what was it that really attracted you to it? Other than boxing,
I
obviously.
like
You would have gone either way, right?
Yeah, I like that you could like kick people and like you use other tools to whoop someone's ass. I was really attracted to that. Like, it wasn't just hands. You know, in my last fight, I was throwing a lot of kicks as well.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's so many different ways. You know, obviously there's submissions and grappling and wrestling, and yeah, there's just so many ways that and so many different martial arts that play a part in a fight.
Yeah.
You know, that is essentially what started MMA, was the idea what martial art is the best. You know,
Right.
the judo guy versus the karate guy, or the boxer versus
Yeah.
the wrestler. You know, it was the question of what's the best martial art, and then when you combined all of that, you get MMA. So I just really loved that idea, and I think it's the best sport ever.
Yeah, it's as close to a real fight as it can get. So obviously
Hmm.
that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you also talked about your admiration for Justin Gaethje. So is that someone you try to emulate in the octagon?
Yes, absolutely. Justin Gagey is my freaking hero, man. I love Steve. The thing with me, like, I think that Gagey just gets it. He understands. Like, we're fighting for money. We're fighting for entertainment. He said, I think in an interview that he wanted to be he would, if he wasn't a fighter, he'd be a social worker. You
Mhm.
know, so he's a good person. He does this for like a big picture, and I do it the same way. And you know, he comes and he brings it, and he's the most entertaining fighter. He's the most violent fighter, and I that's what people want to see, and he gets that, and that's what I want to give to people as well. So, I think that it's his mindset and his reckless, like his calculated recklessness, is
Hmm.
what really
Right.
draws him to be my favorite fighter.
Yeah, that was very well put. Calculated recklessness. Like he's taking calculated risk when he's in the ring. Yeah, that makes
Like
sense.
when he went to the UFC, that's when it started to become a little bit more calculated. I think was when he started working with Trevor Whitman. But
Right.
before, he was just kind of wild, and people still love that. They love to
Yeah.
see that.
Yeah. Yeah. And talking about exciting fighters, Francis Ngannou just shocked the boxing world with his, fight against Tyson Fury. Did you get a chance to watch that fight?
I did.
Mhm.
Yeah, he shocked the MMA world too. You
Yeah,
know, usually MMA fighters, when they go to boxing, it's a whole different ball game. You know, because they're two completely different sports.
of course.
So you know, I thought uh, if you watch Ngannou's UFC, a lot of his UFC fights, he kind of throws a little reckless and he
Yeah,
lands
he
and he
just
knocks
goes.
people out. But compared to boxing, it's completely different. So I thought that he was going to be a little reckless, but he was calm. He
Yeah,
was confident. He was picking his shots.
yeah,
He boxed, and it was awesome to see. And he shocked everybody.
yeah.
And
He knocked
yeah,
down Tyson Fury, which was like very surprising. I thought he would do well, but the fact that he knocked Tyson Fury down, one of the greatest
yeah,
heavyweights of his generation, that was amazing.
yeah. It was awesome to see. Awesome fight. And Coach Eric Nixick at Extreme Couture, one of my coaches, he was in his corner.
Oh,
Because
wow.
Francis, that was when he was fighting in MMA, that was his home gym, was Extreme
Right.
Couture.
That makes sense. And also, he was coached by the great Mike Tyson, also, and who was a great admirer of your grandfather, of Muhammad Ali. So, did you ever get a chance to meet him?
Oh, I met Mike many times. I met him for the first time when I was like 12, and we just became like family friends. You know, sometimes we'll go to his house and he'll show us all his pigeons, the gorgeous pigeons. Like
Yeah,
these aren't the pigeons you see like like with trash on their
yeah.
feathers. Like these pigeons were gorgeous. But yeah, he's an awesome guy, man. It's every time I see Mike, it's like I get a little starstruck. Like every time.
Of course. Yeah, yeah. And are there any other fighters other than Mike Tyson, other than Muhammad Ali, that have inspired you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think you know, style wise or just in general.
In general, like as motivation, and then also style-wise.
Yeah. John Jones. I mean, you can't go wrong with John Jones.
Yeah.
His mentality. Uh, he, yeah, John Jones. There's nothing more I have to say. I mean, I
Pound
just
for
gotta
pound,
say
one of
John
the
Jones.
greatest fighters, of course.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
absolutely. You know, so
And I think everyone was so excited. I think you were also very excited about his fight with Stipe Miocic, if that would happen. But unfortunately, he injured his shoulder, obviously. But that fight would have been one for the ages, right?
oh yeah, absolutely. Everyone was excited to see that. But hey, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah,
You know, I know John Jones has a strong faith. He has a strong belief as well. So he knows that. And when he comes back, we're all excited to see him.
of course. And before we wrap this up, Baji, do you have anything you want to say to your fans?
Thank you for all your support. Thank you for any kind of hate, anything like that. It just motivates me and drives me. Tune in November 24th, Washington, D.C., PFL World Championship, and it should be a good fight. It's going to be a good night. Just looking to put on a show for the crowd.
And you said that you might turn pro after this fight. Like you're thinking about, okay, after this one fight, I'll, properly
Yeah,
be pro. Yeah.
yeah, I think it's a good idea. You know, depending on how this fight goes, I'm gonna sit down with my coach and just see what he thinks. And you know, I believe I already won. I truly believe that. So yeah, the plan would be to go pro in my ideal world, but I'm not all knowing. Anything can happen, and I'm open to any possibility. So yeah, regardless of where this fight goes, I'm gonna sit down with my coach and just see what he thinks.
No, and good luck for the fight. And I know that when you're going to be successful, you're going to help a lot of other people because you have this philanthropic view as well, like just like your grandfather. And I wish you all the luck with the
Thank you.
fight. It
Thank
was
you so
lovely,
much, man. That
lovely
means the
talking to you.
world.
Yeah, it was lovely talking to you. You are a
Thank
great person, and it's like, and I know that you're going to be a great fighter too.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that. That means a lot. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Baju. It was nice talking to you.
You too. Have a good one.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Baji. It was amazing. We'll hit you up on your socials as well. I think Ajinkya will do that. We'll stay in touch and, hopefully do many more interviews and all the best.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.